In order to be a leader of any significant consequence that anyone would want to follow, it's important that you believe in the creative and innovative future and capabilities of the people that you are in charge of charging forward towards the best direction for your organizational culture and goals that you set out as one to ensure that everyone is rowing in the same direction of accomplishment and achievement that provides all involved a sense of security and fulfillment that they're adding value to the mission at hand. According to research from my friends at PricewaterhouseCoopers, it found that 77% of CEOs say that creativity and innovation is indeed the most important leadership quality of any employee that they're in charge of leading and charging towards advancement. To further buttress this fact, a recent survey conducted by IBM found that 60% of all CEOs across America say that leadership and creativity is the most important skill they look for when looking to develop new leaders. That's good news for my friend David Baker-Hargrove. He's a business consultant and psychotherapist who helps business professionals and CEOs accomplish their business goals. He sees opportunities and solutions that others may not see. His primary mission is to help you accelerate your growth and success. And he joined me this week to have a conversation about how to accelerate and expand your business success and operational goals to make sure that you're always in the winner's circle of both opportunity and advancement, all at the same time, as we all work simultaneously to work to achieve the best versions of ourselves in life and in business. So without further delay, I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, my friend, and I'm excited to talk to you this morning all about leadership in business and helping business owners reach their business goals. Great to see you, and thank you for a few minutes this morning.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it, and I'm honored to be asked.
Absolutely. Now, David, I know that your professional mission is helping business professionals achieve their business goals as a business consultant and psychotherapist, my friend. So tell me about your work and what makes you so fabulous.
Well, I think that, first of all, I think that bringing my psychotherapy training, I've been a practicing therapist for over 25 years, and I think bringing that into the consulting sector really gives me an ability to really connect and build rapport with clients on really helping them understand, well, what do you want to do with this consulting project? Where do you want to go? So before anyone actually becomes a client, I would meet with them first to do a discovery meeting, and we just have a conversation about their goals and their struggles and their successes, and and kind of where they're at and about their professional selves. And then I just listen and write down pretty much everything I can while they're talking, and then I go back and I look at everything that I've written down, all the notes that I've taken, and I try to look for themes, concepts, um, kind of looking under the rug of what was not said, but really sticks out in the words and the notes that I have. And then I go back to that person and I provide them with a scope of work. And I say, this is what I heard you say. And the scope of work really outlines what we would do together, what our goals would be, what we hope to accomplish during the period of time for whatever it is. And then we make that agreement and then move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And David, tell me, what is, I guess, the key to setting attainable and tangible business goals?
Well, I think it's, the key is really trying to get more clarity about where you've been, where you're headed, what you want, and how you align all of those things together. And you'd be surprised how often we all get blinders on ourselves, where we can't see things that are just really obvious. And it's natural. It happens to everybody. It happens to me. So it's really about having someone else reflect back all of that information and really help you understand and really align where you've been to where you're going and have a storyline that makes sense for you and what you want. So I think that's one of the main keys, is to being able to delineate all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And David, you say you have a unique ability to see opportunities that others may not see in their life and in business, my friend. So tell me about how we can help people accelerate opportunities in business and in life, my friend. So what do you think is the key to accelerating opportunity?
Yeah, I think so. It goes back to what I was saying in the first question. It's, really being able to listen to what the client has to say and be able to give it back to them in a form of strategic plan, with action items and timelines. I find that to be very helpful. It's just really great to have an accountability partner that can, help you really achieve what it is you want to achieve, but also to figure it out, more importantly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, David, how do you define business clarity? What does that mean to you?
I think that goes back to the second question, right? It's being able to create that alignment of, knowing where you've been and what it's taught you in your career so far, and how that really supports where you want to go. And like, for instance, one of my very first jobs out of high school was I was working as a bookkeeper for an Italian restaurant chain. And most of the training I had received was on the job training. I've never been to accounting school, for lack of a better word. I don't have an accounting degree. And I've never really taken an accounting class. You don't have to do that to get a PhD in psychology. So, but what I didn't know is that how valuable understanding finances and bookkeeping and being able to put accounting together for an organization, how valuable that would be for me some 40 years later when I'm the CEO of a healthcare organization, right? So, there's always things that you've done in your past that you've learned a skill that can really help you in support of your future. You just have to remember or figure out what that was. Remember what it was.
Yeah, and David, I'm curious to ask you about what do you think is the most valuable lesson you've learned throughout the course of your life, whether it be in business or in your own personal life, that still sort of rings true for your level of success today? I'm curious to get your answer there.
I have to say that no matter how down you are, or no matter how bleak things seem to be, never give up. Um, I've stood up and fallen down so many times, most often of my own volition, that I wasn't paying attention close enough. And it's, you just have to get back up again and learn from the experience and try to do better next time.
Yeah, absolutely. David, I also wanted to talk to you this morning about business leadership and how you think it's evolved over time. And what do you think business leaders can do to challenge themselves to be better leaders and really define the normal expectations of leadership? What are your thoughts there?
So I think that leadership still has a big problem with not listening to what creates employee satisfaction. You know, there was a lot of talk about this during the pandemic, but then as soon as kind of the world was getting back to normal, all of that care and concern for employees just kind of went away. And, you know, and I think that that's really a big problem. I don't know why we as leaders get so stuck on that there has to be some sort of creating an atmosphere of you owe me as an employee to some degree, you know. And I think, you know, and people and we still get it wrong all the time. Like big tech thought that it was all about perks like ping pong and beer Fridays, but what we've seen in recent years, and so what, 20 years ago or whatever, everyone was like, oh my god, these companies are so great. But then what we found out in recent years is that the leadership wasn't paying attention to the organizational culture. People were still being marginalized, they were still being not heard, they were still being not appreciated. And so I think that most importantly, leaders have to focus on the culture of the organization. First and foremost, focus on the culture of the organization. If you are not creating the culture that you want, someone else in the organization is creating it for you, because every organization has a culture. And so you have to focus as a leader what you want your organizational culture to be. And then you also have to find out where the organization is at culturally now, and you have to figure out what the steps are to get from where you are now to where you want to be. And you have to learn how to navigate the change of creating that culture with the staff and the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. No, David, as you know, I work with businesses to amplify the hiring of folks with disabilities, and I have a disability myself. I was actually born with cerebral palsy. So this line of work is important to me because I believe that folks with disabilities can be a part of telling a competitive story of advantage in business. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on what sort of advantage or strategic win do you think businesses or corporations can have if they hire folks with disabilities and begin to think inclusively? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think that inclusivity at all levels of an organization are extremely important, and it can be implemented relatively easy if you do it with intention. You know, you have to start with training. You have to hold the right kinds of training paradigms for your organization to the staff. And as the leader, you have to be a full participant. You know, one of the things that always bothered me when I was in the military is that every time that we would have to take some sort of soft skills training, you know, it would always be towards the enlisted, which I was, but the officers would never attend. Well, and that's the same problem we have in corporate America, right? Is that, oh, well, this training's for the staff. The training is for the leaders too, because they have to model the training principles and exemplify them daily. Because if you don't, then no one else is going to take it seriously. I've worked at companies before where training seems like something that you just have to do to check a box or to say, oh, look, we're training. But you have to be an organization that takes this kind of training seriously, and then you have to implement it with intention.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, David, I'm curious to get your thoughts on how you view creativity as it relates to innovation. How important do you think creativity is to establishing innovation within an organizational culture or a corporation or a business?
Well, I love it personally. I love That's one of the most fun things about being a business consultant is the creativity and the coming up with new ideas or fresh perspectives. And I think in an organization, you know, not everyone, I think in my experience as a executive in organizations, I find that a lot of people are afraid to be creative. They're afraid that it is, and again, that goes back to culture because it's what they've been taught at all their previous jobs is that it's don't step out of the lines too much, or you're going to get your hand slapped. Um, but I think that creativity really builds innovation. And I think that there's room for creativity on every single level of the organization. And I think that that should be part of the culture that is really encouraged.
Yeah, absolutely. And David, what are your thoughts on consistency as a principle of success within an organization? Because, CEOs that are consistent in delivering messages often breed the most success. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on the value of consistency and what that means to you.
So I think it's great to be consistent. That goes along with having a good strategic plan, right? Because a good strategic plan is going to help you maintain consistency where it's important to do so. Along with that is to look at what kind of data that you want to measure and collect that shows you that you're on the right path of your organization. That also feeds into consistency because if you're doing something and doing something and doing something and you can't get any data to show that it's working, then all the consistency in the world ain't going to help you because you're not doing what's having an impact. So you have to be able to look at, well, what changes do I need to make that would create impact or create the impact that I want? And then once you can, if you can consistently monitor that, then it's going to help you in maintaining a good strategic plan moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And David, I'm also curious to pick your brain on the idea of time management as a CEO and really having the ability to delegate things in business to also, because I believe it also empowers the people that you're in charge of leading. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on time management and the ability of leaders to delegate and how important that is.
Well, I actually consider myself jokingly to be a time lord. If anyone is familiar with Doctor Who, um, you know, I but I think that time management begins with a mindset. You know, I saw a long time ago. I was watching a lecture from gosh, it was a famous psychologist author back in the early '90s, and I can't remember his name now. I'll remember it as soon as we get off the show. But and he was saying that how many times do you hear people say, or do you say to yourself, "Oh, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. Oh, I'm behind. I can never get anything done." And he said, the more you tell yourself that, the more you make it true. And I was like, what? Really? Wow. So I made a vow to myself at that time that I would never say to myself again, oh, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to get things done. And what it did was it changed my mindset into how really being creative, how my brain would allow itself to be creative and figure out how do I get done everything that I get done. And I don't ever really have a problem with time because I refuse to put myself at a disadvantage with it. And so it all begins with a mindset. Now, I love lists. I love calendar. I love, the task feature on MS Outlook. I use a lot of organizational tools. I also have a journal that I write in. I use Notebook. I use a lot of software tools to help me stay organized, which is great. And I think that anyone who's wanting to manage their time better should look at how those things can work in their favor. But it all begins with a mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to tell you, David, my rule on time management, because I have a hard time as saying no, but my rule on time management is if it isn't in my schedule, I don't agree to do it because there's only so much time in a day, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. And David, tell me the significance I'm curious for you in your own personal life, how do you measure whether you're truly making a difference in the work you do or the people that you impact? I'm curious to get your answer there.
Well, I mean, with working with other people, I mean, the easiest way is just to ask and get feedback and then be willing to accept the feedback. You know, that's another issue that we have in corporate America, is that no one really is trained to give feedback well or artfully. And most of us think that feedback is really either fault finding or complaining. And feedback is really more of a positive intention to create um, impactful change. And so so one of it is just to ask or do but the other is for myself, is that I just spend a lot of time trying to benchmark where I'm at now versus where I've been. And if I feel like that I've grown or learned anything from my experiences, and even, write those down so that I won't forget them. And as long as I can show myself that I feel like I'm learning from the things that I'm doing, and that I am trying to love myself more, then I think that that's success.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And David, I'm curious when we talk about maximizing productive potential. I'm wondering your thoughts on the definition of a productive potential as it relates to an organizational culture. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think that, first you would have to get feedback from the entire. So, the plan would be, I'd say, to like a client, you want to get feedback from the entire organization, about where the organization is, especially focusing on the culture of the organization. Um, and as the leader, you're not going to get that directly by asking people. They're not going to be honest with you, really. Um, and I recommend against doing anonymous surveys because, just like I said before, most people don't know how to give constructive feedback, and it will end up being too negative and not generally helpful. Um, you know, so I think the best thing to do is to hire a consultant who can conduct staff interviews and is adept at capturing themes and turning them into action items. And that way you can really see where an organization needs to grow from a cultural perspective. Most leaders or business owners or founders, they understand the business, but what most of those folks don't really understand is how vital the culture is to the business that they know.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to follow up on that, what do you think is the key to helping CEOs sort of accept constructive criticism? What are your thoughts there?
So I think it's just, you have to be open to learning. You have to be open, you got to be more human. I think it's the best, you got to be more human. You have to be open to learning. You have to be open to you don't know it all. You have to be open to change and understanding that there might be things that you can do differently that can create a more lasting impact. And it's not everybody's cut that way. And we're not trained coming up through the business world to be that kind of a leader in most cases. So, it can be very difficult.
Yeah, and David, we've talked a lot this morning about strategic planning and having a business plan. So I'm curious if I put you on the set of the Wizard of Oz, my friend, and I asked you to come up with the three steps that any CEO can take to have a great business plan or strategic plan, and I asked you to put it on the yellow brick road of success. I'm curious, what sort of steps would you put on the road to success, and how easy do you think it would be to follow in today's business climate?
So I say, first off, always focus on your culture, always focus on your culture, and take training seriously. And make sure that the training you invest in is the best training for the organization at the time that can make the most impact. Um, Never give up, no matter how hard things can seem. And then I would say also, it's really important to also stay excited about your business. And sometimes that can be actually more difficult. You say, oh, yeah, stay excited about the business. Well, that's, easy, right? No, it's actually, it can be a lot harder and a lot easier said than done. And so staying excited about your business is something that is also very important.
Yeah, and David, how do you think business innovation and the way we look to business leadership and developing a business innovative culture will change within the next 25 years? I'm curious to get your thoughts there as well.
So, I think that AI will influence a lot and change a lot in how we currently do things and what that will lead us to. And I don't really know what that's going to be. It'll be changes that I just will kind of see as it comes, I guess. But I don't think that we can really, but I think it's going to come back to same thing, same issue. No matter how much technology we get, sometimes we still have to deal with the same issues. And that is how humans interact and how humans treat each other. And how we build relationships in the workplace. And that's not new. It's still a problem. It's been a problem for a long time, and I don't think that will go away. And so I think that we still need to focus on that. No matter how much we talk about it, we need to put it into action.
Absolutely. And David, what do you think is the key to staying strategically focused as a business leader or a CEO?
So it goes back to strategic planning, right? Develop a plan and work the plan, but also know that nothing ever goes 100% as it's planned or as you want it to. So you have to work the plan, but you also have to be able to accept the need to make changes when you hit roadblocks or dead ends or things don't go the way that you anticipated. I think also it can be very important to have an accountability partner, especially if you are a business owner or a CEO or an entrepreneur. A lot of times that's a very lonely existence, and you don't really have anyone to bounce off what you're going through. And so it can be good to have an accountability partner sometimes that really understands what it's like to be in that position and can
Yeah,
help normalize for you everything that you're experiencing.
yeah, absolutely. And David, as you mentioned earlier, you've got a background in healthcare and running healthcare healthcare organizations. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on the state of American healthcare because, as I shared with you, I live in Canada and that we have access to universal healthcare, and I know that the healthcare system in the states has trended towards that in the past, but it isn't fully there. So if I asked you to evaluate the current state of the healthcare system, what do you think your answer would be?
It's awful. Um, you know, there the whole plan under the Obama administration was to make healthcare accessible and affordable to everyone. And then it's been chopped up so much. The laws regarding that have been chopped up so much that it's not affordable, and it's not accessible in the way that you think. Um, you know, it's for a lot of people. You don't get to choose your providers. And if you're from a an identifiable culture, or you have particular needs, you know, there's going to be providers that you're going to connect with and ones that you're not, and that you don't. And so in this current situation, it's rare that you actually get to pick that. And that's that's just not right. It shouldn't be that way. We should be able to have healthcare providers that connect with us on a human level, not just a medical profile level.
Yeah,
So, and it's not affordable.
well, that's another podcast in itself, isn't it?
Yeah,
The
yes.
affordability of healthcare. But David, I'm curious to end our conversation this morning this way. And I'm always curious to ask my guests when it comes to legacy and defining your own personal and professional legacy. How do you think you would want that to be defined, my friend?
Um, well, I don't, legacy, I just want to be a person that my daughter can be proud of. I think that's the most important thing to me. Um, so I don't know. Um, Other than that, I guess I don't really know legacy, what I want my legacy to be. Um,
Fair enough. I tell you, being a dad is going to be the most important job you'll ever have, right?
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And David, finally, tell me if people want to get connected with a good work they can do, my friend. What's the best way they can do that?
So, so reach out to me on LinkedIn, just my name, David Baker-Hargrove, or my website, davidbaker-hargrove.com.
Fantastic. Well, David, I really want to thank you for moving the needle of progress and conversation forward in the fields of business and healthcare, my friend. You're really doing transformational work, and I want to thank you for engaging in conversation with me this morning. It's most appreciated.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you. And I hope you stay warm.
Being Canadian, that's very nice of you to say, my friend. And I want you to have a good Florida Thursday, okay? Thanks
Absolutely.
so much for the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much as well.